All right, we're live with another episode of the Move Well podcast here at the Move Well HQ. I got the best seat in the house yet again. Kevin and Wade are sharing a camera.
Is that the best seat because you're looking at us? Is that why, Logan?
It's the best. I guess I should say the viewers have the best view because they have the solo camera on me. But maybe I do have the best view in the house. I get to look at you two fine-looking gentlemen, handsome fellas on a Monday. What a way to start the week with the Move Well podcast.
Best way to start the week right here.
Yeah, you can't beat it. Right here in the office, we got the fan rolling. We got the air conditioning on, but it's 100 degrees outside, so see what we can make of it. But like we said last week, we're kind of following the narrative of our content schedule here at Move Well. So July is the month of financial wellness. So we try to make this fun and engaging and apply finances to food budget, to fitness budgets, things like that. But this week, we're going to kind of hammer it down to just general financial savings and how small savings can make a big impact on our lives. And I think all three of us can definitely attest to this statement and can attest to the power of saving in small increments or cutting costs in small increments. And we were talking offline before we started recording that basically we're like, oh yeah, we're good. We're good with this because we've all experienced this in some capacity. So, I think us three could probably agree for the most part, like, no matter how much money we had, it's like, where can we cut coupons? Where can we save money? Like, where can we get the most bang for our buck type of thing? And I think today we'll kind of prove that a little bit. So going off the structure of our great dietitian, Stephanie Anklin, our product manager, the blogs that she creates for us every week. The name of this week's blog is Small Savings, Big Impact, The Power of Starting Small with Saving. So we're going to go off the bones of that and just kind of gauge our conversation based off that today. So I'm going to kick it over to Wade first. We're going to kick it off to you, buddy.
Can I interrupt before Wade
starts? Go for it.
I want to add that we are not certified financial planners.
Yeah, good
this
point.
Is in no way we're not telling you what you need to do from a financial standpoint. We're just more sharing our real life experiences and what we've done and how that incorporates our overall well-being and wellness. But this is not financial advice. If you need actual financial advice, go see your financial planner. But I think all of us can have a lot of insights to share here because we are, raising young families. We're living on a budget. And I think what we're going to share today is just our personal experiences. And if that's helpful, that's great. But obviously we are not financial planners. We are wellness people and talking about a little bit more about how financial wellness impacts our overall well-being.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I think, that's a good point to add.
For the financial.
So Wade, take it away.
I just wanted, before Wade started talking about finance, I just want everybody to know he doesn't really know what he's talking about.
He's a doctor of PT. He's not a doctor of money. All right. No, but I think that's a good point to make, though. Yeah. I mean, we're all I think I'm speaking confidently of the things we're going to talk about because it's all practical, maybe I should say. So this is all based off our respective experiences, but things we've actually put into practice, things we've experienced. So obviously this looks different for a family of dual income, no kids, or a family with one income with 8 kids. Like, it's all going to look different, but this is just from our respective experiences. But yeah, like Kevin said, if you have a trusted financial advisor, that's great. We love our friends at Lock Shield Partners. They're amazing people. If you're local to the Bowling Green area, we do a lot of work with them from a financial standpoint, but also helping them with content and them helping us with content. So we always recommend them. But good preface there, Kevin. So to kick things off, I kind of said savings can look different from when you think of savings, you probably think of 2 buckets. One is like, where can I cut the things I'm spending right now? Where can I take away the things that I'm spending? And then secondly is like, how much money can I put back per week or per month or whatever it is? So I think it can you can either go one way or the other, or you can do a mixture of both. And I know from my perspective, like, we've tried to do a mixture of both and it's been really beneficial, but I want to hear from your all's perspectives. So Wade, starting with you, when you think of saving money from your family's perspective, do you think of cutting expenses, or maybe this was a process? Did it start looking one way and now it looks differently, from cutting expenses out on things like coffee, eating out, or does it look like putting money aside each month, or is it a mix of both now?
Definitely a mix of both for us. We're in the thick of it right now. So in the last 3 months, we've cut probably close to $400 to $500 in monthly expenses just by cutting Netflix, any other random TV subscription. We even canceled our internet service because we don't stream. We don't watch TV. There's no reason for us to have internet at our house. We have hotspots on our phone if we need it. So we even canceled that. But I feel like for us, it's really just taking it, like, what are our goals long term? So 30, 40 years from now, and also 2 to 10 years from now. So we're in the thick of trying to save for vehicles. Both of our vehicles have 150,000+ miles on them. They're probably getting towards the end of their life. So in the next probably 2 years, we're probably going to need a new vehicle. So we're cutting expenses as much as we can. And right now, throwing all the extra we have at a sinking fund for a car, for a new van, SUV, whatever we end up wanting to get. So right now we're cutting expenses, and then everything that we save is just going straight to that sinking fund just to save up for a new vehicle. But then also we continue to save for retirement on top of that. Our kids 529, and then my HSA, just continue to save as much as we can. But obviously, if we have more immediate needs, we'll pause some of that, throw more. Like if our car was to just quit tomorrow, we would need a new car. We'd buy what we can afford with the cash we have saved up, and then go from there. But I say it's a combination of the both, of saving and cutting expenses as much as we can.
Has it always looked that way, or was there like a starting point? I know we'll kind of get into this some, but
in the past it would be earn more. So
Okay.
like I would go out and just work a lot more hours.
Okay.
Janae was working too, and now she's a stay-at-home mom. And I used to work quite a bit at the hospital on top of this job, and now I'm essentially like quit at the hospital. I'm maybe there 10 hours a month, whereas before it was like closer to like 10 hours a week. So significantly cut that back. So now with that revenue not coming in, or that income not coming in, that's whenever we had to start cutting back on a lot more monthly expenses to see where else we can save. And also now we're going to start selling a lot of stuff. So we got a lot of stuff that's just sitting in our house we haven't used in a long time. A lot of kids' toys, TVs. I mean, heck, we got a lot
Wi-Fi
of stuff.
routers.
We're ready to get rid of everything. Yeah, routers, whatever you want. Dave Ramsey has a saying: sell everything to make your kids wonder if they're next. So I'm ready to start selling a lot of stuff. So I hope Eliza doesn't get too scared.
Yeah, I love that.
She will literally think she's getting sold. So I gotta be
Yeah.
careful.
Was there a turning point like in your life, or whether maybe it was like having kids, that your mindset shifted from earn more to like, let's just see how we can get nifty and like save more and cut expenses?
I feel like for us, it started probably like year 2 in marriage.
This is before kids then?
Yeah, before kids.
Okay.
And so we were always good with money. We were never frivolous on what we spent. But I was in PT school, and Janae was a second-year teacher, maybe making $38,000 a year, and we were both living off her income. And then I was just seeing the amount of student debt I was piling up from PT school, and we're like, all right, well, we've got to be very good stewards of what we got, like God's blessed us with, and we've got to start finding a plan to stick with that we can maintain long-term. And that's whenever we started Financial Peace University, right at the beginning of COVID, actually. And we just got aggressive in our debt payoff. Started working even every weekend I could, multiple jobs, just to pay off my student loans to allow us to have that financial flexibility. I can confidently say if we weren't debt free, I wouldn't have left to start this business with Kevin. I can say that 100% confidence, because I left a pretty safe, secure job where I was making very good money. But I had the flexibility and the freedom to be able to leave that job, take a pay cut to come here and build up the business that I want to build. Plus, in that also afforded us the freedom of Janae being able to stay home with our kids when they're small. So it all started with us, like the life we were living 2 years into marriage. We're like, all right, this is okay for right now, but this isn't sustainable long term. What can we do now to start making those choices and those changes in the mind shift to live differently than everybody else? Because our life is probably different than the majority of the people in the world, in terms of just trying to be content with what we have and not trying to buy all the new shiny items and go into debt on stuff that we don't need. So I think it was good for us to have that mindset shift as a young couple, and made us communicate and get on the same page. And then once we had kids, we still had the same goals. It just changed a little bit more, because now we also want to set them up for success in the future too.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. And Kevin, I know it's probably somewhat similar for you and Amanda, but I want you to kind of talk through the same process of what your financial goals looked like in terms of savings and how it shifted over time. So when you and Amanda first kind of started, what did that look like? So did you think more of like, where can we stop spending versus where can we start saving, like actually putting money back? And how has that evolved from first being married with no kids to 1 kid, and then now with 4? So
Yeah.
how's that kind of looked?
Yeah. So when we first got married, no plan whatsoever for several years.
Which I think is common. That's super
Yeah.
common. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was just excited to have a job.
Yeah.
I mean, my wife is a teacher, making same district as Wade's wife, so similar amount, probably making about 38,000. I earned less than her at the job I was at. So together, not terrible for just two people, no kids. But we had no plan, we had no savings. I had no 401k, IRA, nothing. Other than Amanda, we knew some of her paycheck was going to school. I was very focused on becoming a baseball coach, and that's all I cared about. And I thought once I got to a certain level, I'd be making enough money to where, I didn't have to plan back then. So everything I was doing is probably completely wrong. I mean, it was completely wrong, right? I had no plan, wasn't thinking of the future, nothing. What really was the big wake up call for us is, I think, and I always go back to purpose and where you're trying to go, but you have to know like what you're trying to accomplish in your life. And I think Wade's story really alluded to that as well. They decided they wanted to live differently. So here's the steps we have to do to be able to accomplish that. And what was a turning point for us was when we were pregnant with our first daughter 9 years ago, Ava, almost 10 years ago now. My wife said, "Hey, I want to be a stay-at-home mom." And again, she was out earning me as a teacher. We didn't have a lot of income without her salary. We owned a house. We had a child on the way, and we just realized we had to do something differently. That prompted me to reach out to Lock Shield Partners, the people we referenced earlier. They are an endorsed local provider by Dave Ramsey. And so we're not promoting Ramsey Solutions here, but we've both used the system and it's worked for us. Mm-hmm. But they helped me just get started with a plan, and that was huge, So we cut our income by more than half. We made a plan. We had a child, and somehow 2 or 3 years later, we had more money in our bank account than we did when we were both working with no kids, which is crazy. But same thing, a lot of hustle, a lot of extra jobs, a lot of baseball lessons on the side, going and doing whatever, yard sales and selling everything we had. My wife does a great job of selling stuff on Facebook Marketplace and just making the best we could with our resources. But to me, it was really exhilarating, because it's like, I felt like I was finally starting to really live the life that I was probably called to live. And I stopped chasing the baseball dream. So I walked away from some things that I thought were really important, and shifted my focus and focused more on how can I support my family. And it involved a lot of sacrifice. But I'd say we're still there. I mean, we have 4 kids, we homeschool, we're, growing a business, and there's a lot of expense associated with all of that stuff, and we're still making sacrifices. Yeah. But it's well worth it to me, you know? And so, I think now what we're doing is the biggest thing is just communicating, talking about our finances. We were just talking about that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and this summer's been busy, so we haven't been able to communicate as much on finances as we've wanted to, but typically we try to meet every single Sunday, my wife and I, and talk through finances, talk through our schedule for the week and those kind of things. We were able to do that last night, which was nice, and kind of plan out the rest of the year financially and things like that, since we're at the midpoint. But it's an ever evolving process. It'll change over time, I think, depending on what you're trying to do and accomplish. But the biggest part is just having a plan, communicating about it. If you have a spouse or significant other that you're sharing financial resources with, and then just constantly looking at it and making adjustments. Yeah. I think I'll speak to this also, and then kind of transition to the next part of this conversation, which is like habit changes. And I think that has changed drastically for my wife and I as we've gotten older and as we bought a house and had our daughter. But yeah, for us, it was kind of the same thing, like probably similar to you and Janae in the beginning. Wade, was like, we were earning enough to where, we had an apartment downtown Bowling Green, and it was right around COVID. And when we signed the lease to the apartment we were in, that's like our favorite place we've ever lived. We always say, like, even we love it more than we love our house. But it was right in the middle of COVID, so we really couldn't go do anything. And so once they started lifting restrictions, we were like, okay, well, we're making money. We haven't really spent money. Let's go do things. So we were going out to dinner 2 nights a week, and going out on the weekends and hanging out with friends, and, just like spending and having fun and whatever. And we didn't have kids or anything else. We both had jobs. We were out of school. Student loans were on a freeze. So we're like, okay, we don't have to pay our student loans. Like, we'll just, let them kind of sit. And then once we looked into buying a home, we were like, okay, they really look at our, because we did a USDA loan, which is a rural housing loan. So basically, you don't have to put any money down. It can technically be all cash or financed
your entire loan can be financed. And so we looked at that and we were okay with living outside of the city a little bit. And we're still like 12 minutes from downtown where we live. But for us, that really fit. But it also made us look and be like, okay, well, we're going to do this, but we know our payments are going to be a little higher. And if we do a 30-year loan per se, then we're going to pay a little bit higher than if we were to put down 10% or 20%, whatever it is. And so I think that for us was the first step of like, okay, well, let's see where we can cut our spendings. And that's when we looked at going out to eat multiple nights a week. And I think living outside of the city really helped us too. So cutting back on expenses where we're going out to eat and where we're spending our money. But then it slowly turned into like, okay, well, let's create a separate account that's kind of like the fail safe of if something happens to our vehicles, we have money in this account, but also the money in this account can earn interest if we don't touch it. And so then we start, talking to friends that we have that are, financially versed in those things. And so that was just kind of like a trickle effect, but nothing really official. And then obviously once we had our daughter, we were like, okay, well, what can we do to set Leah up for success? And we have some friends that work in finance, and they're like, well, this is probably this is a good starting point. So now it's all kind of evolved, kind of like what you all said. So I think where I kind of went with that, I think Emily and I saw the biggest change in our habits, like the things that we did on a regular basis versus what we started to do versus what we do now. And that all kind of ties into saving, like cutting back on spending and also putting money back. But I guess my question, the long-winded question there is, where did you all see habit changes happen that were drastic compared to before you really started saving or focusing on your finances versus when you really started to focus on your finances and see where you can best benefit your family? Were there any big things you can think of that really changed, that kind of kick-started that journey, the saving journey or the less spending journey?
Go ahead. You're about to answer.
No, go ahead. I'm thinking a little bit more on mine.
I think for us, it was communication. It was a habit we had to develop. I remember we used to laugh about some people we knew, and they would like, hey, we need to have, they would schedule like meetings like with their spouse, and we're like, we'd always laugh like, oh, we don't have to do that. We communicate all the time. And so that was a habit we had to learn of, like actually carving out dedicated time. I mean, marriage is such a unique thing. But one of the things that's unique about it is not only are you growing together, potentially you're raising a family together, but you're also kind of managing a business together, your life, your finances, your house, as an asset, like all you're managing assets together. So you kind of have a business partner in a way too. And we never really thought about that. And so you have to have dedicated time. So I think for us, having a weekly meeting was probably one of the biggest things that helped us. And then actually making a budget. We had never had a budget. We were just kind of going off feel all the time. And so like really making, an Excel spreadsheet that, hey, here's how much we have to spend each month on these things. Like we'd never done that before. We did use the Dave Ramsey method and did the cash envelopes, and we still do those things. And so that was a big change. But just putting things in place for us to control have a pulse on what we're even spending money on. We'd never done that. That was probably the biggest shift. And of course we're still shifting and growing habits now that we'll be 15 years in the marriage and all this stuff this year. But that was probably the initial big change.
Yeah. And I think that'll go into what Wade will talk about too, because Wade and I were texting this weekend about some like financial resources that MoveWell provides for its employees. And you and I kind of talked briefly about it too, Kevin, was like communication just goes a long way with your spouse. And I think that translates, if you talk about money and finances, that's going to translate to other things that you're doing in life, whether it's like your upcoming schedule that week or whatever it is. So I think just having that like cohesive, or that bond with your partner is just really powerful, because what's going on in your life financially, work related, fitness related, whatever your goals are. I think it all just kind of meshes together. And I think finances honestly is like the overarching, like that's like the main thing, because that is going to determine what your capabilities are as a family. Like what can you do? Mm-hmm. So talking about habits for you and your family, Wade, like how have the habits translated to all communication between you and your wife? And then like what resources do you use? Because I know you've used Dave Ramsey just like Kevin has, so you can kind of touch on all of that, and then you can bounce back too, obviously, Kevin. But yeah, I'd love to hear that.
Come back to that question in just a minute. But first,
okay,
I ask you all a question. What was the communication or the discussion ever like that you witnessed growing up in your family around money? Was it positive? Was it negative? Did you ever see it? Question. Did you ever see any communication around it? Like your parents?
Yeah. I just knew we didn't have a lot to spend, there was a lot of focus growing up. My dad worked in professional baseball, so there was a lot of focus. I don't think he was putting trying to do this, but as a child, this is what I picked up on was like, hey, if you can get a big contract in baseball, you're gonna make a lot of money. And that's what you have to do to be successful. So I think that's why I was never really, because, baseball, you basically live poor until you make it rich, and that was kind of always my focus. I knew we were pretty frugal. I knew it was important to save. I saw them doing envelopes. I didn't really know what they were putting in the envelopes, but I knew they did that. Other than that, there wasn't a whole lot of discussion, honestly.
Growing up.
Yeah, it was. I don't think it's like negative, but I think it was like a pretty, like, it was probably closer to like a negative relationship with money than it was positive. I think my parents were just like very vocal and didn't really tuck away their conversations, like go to the bedroom and talk about finances. Like, it was very open. So I think, like, for me, money was always like a scary topic. So I remember going to college and always feeling like, I need to have at least like a little bit of money on me at all times. Otherwise I'm not going to have anything. Yeah. And so I think it was always like just scary for me at first, but it was also, I think money, the conversation of money was so foreign and seemed intimidating and scary based on my parents' conversations that I witnessed, that I almost didn't even want to think about it once I got to college. So it was like, all right, I'm going to, like, my loans are taken care of. My school's paid for. I'm not going to worry about that until I have to worry about it. So therefore I didn't worry about anything loan related. I made sure I had the loans and the money that I had to pay for school. And then once I graduated, now I'll start worrying about it. And then same thing with, like, I got my paycheck for work that week. Okay. Gas filled up in my car. Insurance is paid for, phone bills paid for. And now I'm not going to worry about anything until those bills come back up. So I think that was a fault from maybe hearing the conversations from almost like a negative light, was like, let me just make sure I'm taken care of. And then I'll just worry about it next time I need to worry about that I need to be taken care of. There was no habits of like saving money or making sure I had a cushion if something did happen to my vehicle. I think I just got really lucky of not having a lot of, while I was in college, especially not having a lot of issues that forced me to fall back on any cushion or savings that I would have needed.
No, I don't think any of ours was ever positive in any light or conversation. Mm-hmm. I don't think we ever witnessed any conversations around money. Mom and dad, I mean, we never hurt for anything, but we definitely weren't wealthy at all. Definitely weren't poor. We were somewhere good in the middle class.
Middle class.
But we always knew that we never really asked for anything. And they instilled in us from the very beginning, if you wanted it, you had to work and earn the money to get it. So that was an awesome habit that they formed in us at a young age that I was very appreciative of. And I was fortunate to be the youngest of 5 kids, where my brother started a lawn mowing business when he was in high school. And I did that all the way through my junior year in college.
Nice.
That's how I bought every car I had, how I paid for school. So like the conversation was never positive. So what we're trying to do, a new habit we're trying to do with our family, is to have those conversations open in front of our kids, to not see money as a strain, but as a blessing and as an asset that we get to manage. It's not ours. We come here with nothing. We're going to leave with nothing. So just really trying to instill that in our kids is something that we're trying to do. Every Saturday I lead a running group, and it's at a coffee shop. And after the run, Eliza always wants a treat. She goes in and gets a daggone oat milk and a scone. Those two things added up together is like $8.17 for something that maybe costs 30 cents to make. Don't get me on it. So every week I'm trying to convince her, like, we don't need it. We got stuff at home. We got plenty of stuff to eat. Like, you just don't need it. And so it's been a struggle the last 2 weeks. So I did the math, and I told her, so you'll be 16 in 12 years. So if we save up that money every week for 52 weeks for the next 12 years, I'll be able to give you like $7,000 cash for a car.
Wow.
That you can use. So like, I'm trying to teach her, like, hey, these little small dumb expenses that we get are, like, for me, it's stopping at a gas station to get a drink and a snack when I
chomp.
Good, I got food at home. C4 and a chomp.
Yeah.
I know I got that stuff at home that I can use, or just drink my water.
Yeah.
But it's funny when I have to preach that to her, it makes me think about the habits that I'm doing too at the same time, So
that's big. Yeah.
So that's a big one, just trying to get her to understand. And she went to the store the other night with her Nana, and now she wants an Apple Watch. And I'm like, why the hell does a 4-year-old need an Apple Watch. And she's like, I just really want it. I was like, well, you got to save money for it. We're not going to buy it for you. And even once you save the money for it, I'm still not going to buy it for you.
Yeah.
Sorry to break it to you.
Put it towards that $7,000
Yeah, no joke.
car
But,
payment.
I feel like for us, communication is huge. And then just trying to instill healthy conversation around a topic that is one of the biggest causes for divorce in our family, around our kids, so they can start to learn how to have healthy conversations around it too. And it's still not good for me and Janae a lot. Like, we still get in a lot of arguments around money.
It's not fun to talk about money
It's uncomfortable
either.
to talk
Yeah.
about it. I mean, we were looking at new vans to try to see what we could afford. And we don't want to take out a loan. We want to pay cash. And heck, even if we put down the certain amount of money that we have saved up and finance the rest, the monthly payment was almost going to be like $900.
Good gosh.
Crazy.
Like a used van is still like $35,000 to $40,000.
Crazy.
Nuts. And so obviously we were like, all right, well, how much do we have to put back every month for the next year and a half to get to where we want to go? And that's where we're starting to save and just use that sinking fund. So it makes you communicate better in marriage, and it just makes you work together as a team, and we're working towards a common goal. And, as long as you're unified and you work towards that together, it usually works out. But we may not have the best van or best vehicle, but we'll get there eventually.
But I think everybody can attest to this. Even people with really nice stuff, or you have financial resources, you'll be excited about that new vehicle or van for a little bit. Yeah. And especially if you have kids, that thing's gonna be trash in a week or two anyways. And so for me, when I get really excited about something, like we were at the flea market here yesterday, and we bought for my daughter a electric scooter for her birthday. And they had another like Razor scooter thing you sit on, and like it's kind of like I don't know if you've seen those. They're not a go-kart. It's kind of like a
wiggle back and forth.
No, it's like a hoverboard thing. So if you sit on it, they're super fast.
Okay.
Anyways, it was $90. I was like, oh man, that'd be really
tempting.
Fun to get. Yeah, and I started thinking, I was like, do we really? You know what I mean? Like, I think the and that's what Dan Klein at Lockshill Partners would say. I've heard him say, being financially sound or financially well is just having discipline over a long period of time. So when you feel that impulse to buy something, just kind of take a step back and be like, do I need this? Is this going to bring me joy? Do I need the, and then a lot of times your answer is pretty clear. And so I kind of had to exercise that.
Yeah. Well, I think the new vehicle concept is a really good example. And that applies to Emily, and I use that for a lot of things too. Like Emily and I had no car payments up until 2021, and she got in an accident and got her car. I had no payment for like almost 2 years after that, and we got her vehicle in 2021. And so now hers is almost paid off. We have like 2 more payments, and we were talking about upgrading hers, but we're like, we don't really need to do that. Like, right, we have 1 kid, and we're like, well, when we have more kids, okay, well, let's just stay where we're at. And let's save money, And so we've had a lot of those conversations too, where if we didn't have Leah, our daughter, we probably just would have got a new vehicle because the car payment's gone on her current vehicle, and now let's finance something else. But I think we realized, I still have probably 2 years left on my car payment or so. And we're like, let's take her vehicle and put back the money that we were paying towards hers, and we can use it for another vehicle if we need to. But if hers is good for a while, then it's good. So
the dealership will be sending you all a lot
They
of
already
pamphlets
do.
in the mail being like, hey, your loan's about to end. Let's trade
They
it
already
in
do.
and maintain the same payment you have. So
yeah, they already do. They're
beware of
like,
that.
keep the
They're
same
good.
payment, and then in the real small text at the bottom, it's like with the $10,000 down payment. It's like, no, we're good. We're good. But yeah, I think that's a good example, and just to have that mindset. But again, before we had our daughter, we probably would have just jumped the gun and been like, yep, let's get something else, get something new. So I think that's big. But as we start to wrap up, like, what are some big things that, and you two can kind of bounce back and forth because you both have done Dave Ramsey programs in some capacity. Like, what are some things or some big takeaways that you have had from those that would be worth sharing for people to implement, or even just what are the programs that you've done that you would recommend?
I feel like Financial Peace University, especially as a newly married couple, was good to go through. Just to get on the same page as finances. Like Kevin said, just sitting down for the first time and just start. And if you don't know where to start, you don't want to start with the program, just start with a budget. Track your expenses, understand what you are bringing in, understand your main expenses, which are your housing. Well, he calls it your 4 pillars. So you got your housing, you got your food, you got your vehicle and insurance, or something along those lines. I may be misspeaking to one of them, but like the non-negotiables that you have to pay every month, or your light shut off, or utilities is one of them. Yeah, instead of the insurance. just making sure all 4 of your walls are covered, and then what do you have left over? Then you start to go in, and then you can decide, do you want to save more? Do you want to spend more? Like, then you can start to use that money to use it. So I would just say start with the budget. Then if you want more financial resources, Dave Ramsey's program has been good for us, but I know there's a lot of other programs out there that people have been successful on. It's just honestly the one that works best for you and your family. And the way Janae and I are wired, that was the best one for us to use and continue to use.
There's Financial
going forward.
Peace.
Financial Peace, yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Just Ramsey Solutions. So I would just say start with the budget. That's the easiest thing to start with. And if you don't know where to start there, because most people don't do it.
Yeah, say what you have coming in.
Yeah.
What are your expenses?
Yeah.
Where can
Track
you
it
cut?
out.
Where
Like,
can you
basically,
save?
you sign your money before the month even starts.
Mm.
And so me and Janae, like we said, start trying to save it for a vehicle. So we did a no spend month here in July. So anything outside of our normal grocery runs or anything, we're not buying anything extra. So we've already been able to put back close to $500 this month
Wow.
just off dumb expenses that we would have been like out purchasing just random stuff. Like you have to go to Walmart for paper towels and you come out spending $200 worth of stuff that you didn't even need. You know, so
it's a sobering
being really
feeling.
strategic about what you do.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's like I'm going to go back a step further. Kind of we talked about is where do you want to go, right? I mean, have a plan for that. Of like what kind of lifestyle do I want to live, and then think through that. Then kind of think, okay, well, what financially do I need to do to get there? And then from there, ask somebody to help you, because very few of us are financial experts. You know, there's a lot of people that are though, and a lot of them work for relatively cheap. You know, so for me, getting a financial planner was one of the best things. I'm meeting with my financial planner on Wednesday. You know, we just do some regular check-ins. So I think that's really important. Ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I think there's, especially for males, I think we all want to look like we know everything about money and okay, yeah, I'm putting some money here in the stock market and this and that and that. But if you don't have a plan, you don't know what you're doing, you're just wasting money, you know? So it might feel cool. So kind of get over your ego if that's something, and just be able to admit, like, I don't know everything. You know, there's people that do though. Ask for help. I think is the best place to start. So think about where you want to go and then ask for help to help you get there. I think is one of the best things that I've learned. And I just continue to do that. And I'll continue, you know, I know some of the most financially sound people, financially well people I know that are maybe retired or getting close to that, or they're just making a lot of money. They have trusted people that help them with it. They don't do it themselves. There's very few people that do that. So ask for help. There's nothing wrong with that.
And it's not always what it appears on the outside for people too. We were talking about this in our business meeting this past week. Kevin and I are both a part of C12, and there were a lot of people that appeared on the outside to be very financially well, but were one paycheck away from losing everything. So like, I just want to go back to just don't focus on the appearances too. Of everything.
Yeah.
So it's huge because you never know what the personal finance of somebody, it's so different to everybody. So you don't ever know what another family is going through there as well.
Yep.
Yeah. It's very easy from the outside looking in and be like, gosh, man, I'm failing. They're doing so good. They're doing
social media on top. I mean, it's very easy. And I think this ties back into the whole wellness piece of it, right? I mean, then people can look at that and like, oh, they went on this trip, just bought this new vehicle and all this stuff, but they may be stressed to the max, strapped in debt, you know, where it's just not healthy, but that's not what people portray on the outside.
And I also want to add, and we talked a lot, and obviously you can kind of tell I think we all are financially, you know, we're just young families and we're, you know, we're not dealing with an abundance, but we're making it work and we're being smart and frugal with our money. But there's a lot of, but I don't want people to take away, well, that sounds miserable. There's a lot of joy in it. There's a lot of joy in making hard decisions with your spouse and decide not to pursue this thing or spend the money on this. For us, we can't really afford to go on big, luxurious vacations. So we have a little camper that we paid cash for several years ago. It's nothing fancy. It's literally 63 years old. And we all cram in there, but it's not air conditioning, and we go camp on our big vacations. And it's the best thing. Like I know my daughter's about to turn 10. She's camped every year of her life at this same campsite. And I know looking back, that's going to be some of her best memories.
Oh, she's going to love it.
And we had to do that because we couldn't afford condos and we couldn't afford hotels. And pretty much every vacation we go on now, if it's more than one or two nights, like we're going to have camp because we can't afford to stay. And honestly, our kids love it. Like, and I love it. It's great. You know, it's a lot more work, and sometimes you're tired or exhausted or whatever, but it's a blast. And I know we're building memories that we'll never forget. So, but that started out of us just having to have a budget. And when we started going to Florida, we used to love to go to, I went to Florida every year as a kid. to Pensacola Beach. And so it was a tradition I wanted to continue in my family. And so Amanda and I, my wife, we would go every year before we had kids. We were married for 5 years before we had kids, and we'd stay at a hotel or whatever. And once we went down to one income, we couldn't afford to do that anymore. So the answer was, well, we're going to get a tent. And she bought me a tent at Christmas for my Christmas present. And it was, even the tent was a lot of money for us to spend. And we booked a campsite for $20 a night, $140 for a week at the beach, and we're literally, we can walk to the beach. We can walk to the bay. We have prime real estate there for $140 for 7 days.
Can't even get a room for that for a night.
For one night. Yeah.
No.
And we're able, it's just, and it opens up this whole new world for us. And now people, friends and family come down and camp with us, and we're making great memories. And that all started because we had to get on a budget.
Yeah.
And there's so much joy in it. So don't think by making sacrifices, you're just going to be miserable. It's actually pretty freeing in a way, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And I think you made a good point, Kevin, about leave your ego at the door.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a learning curve for sure. Like Emily and I, we both had full-time jobs before we had kids for about 2.5 years. And so we were able to just do like 2 to 3 trips a year if we wanted and still feel safe and good financially. And once we had our daughter, we realized, okay, we're gonna have to cut back, but then it's still been like a learning process. And now I think we're to the point where we understand, like, we're just gonna say no. Like if people invite us, like we're just gonna say no. We're like, hey, we just, right now we have other priorities, or we'll just say we can't afford it, if they're pressing us or whatever. And I think getting to that point, you'll also get to a point in your life where you're like, I don't really care. Like if we can't afford to do it, like, I don't care. I just want to make sure our family's taken care of. And that is more freeing than going somewhere and being stressed the whole time of like, oh, well, let's make sure, let's get like chicken tenders and fries and we'll all split it type of thing. You know what I mean? So I think,
there's nothing worse than being like on a vacation or doing something and you don't know your budget. You don't know what you've been spending. You don't really know what's in the bank and what's not. Or how much you have left on a credit card, and you're just swiping that thing.
And you're just worrying about money the whole time.
Yeah, it's miserable.
Yeah,
miserable. And so we define wellness as having control over your money, so it doesn't have control over you. You don't want to live a life that's just dictated by your payments, debt, and the stress associated with that. And like Wade, you changed your life so you didn't have to work all the time, so you could be more present with your family. I mean, I think every single kid in the world when it comes down to when they grow up and they look back at their childhood, I think everybody would say they would rather have their parent more present than not seeing their parent but buying them a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we would all say that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody would.
I think
right?
your spouse would even say that too.
Yeah,
not just your kids. So that was one thing me and Janae had a conversation about the other day, and I was like, just trying to advance the business, trying to make more, trying to bring more home, and she was like, we're perfectly content where we're at.
Yeah.
Why are you even worried about that? Like, we just want you present whenever you're here.
Yeah.
Well, that's just a light bulb moment.
Sobering.
Out 20 years ago, and I still am struggling with. But I mean, it's just being present physically and mentally. Honestly, it is huge for your families.
Yep. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Great perspectives from you guys always. Hope you all listening learned something from us. I know I always learn something from these guys. They're a little bit ahead of me in terms of family life. So if you liked what you heard, we have some blogs from the month of July live on our website at movewell.com. Then you just click the little tab at the top right that says Wellness Resources. We have some awesome blogs from Stephanie Anklin, our product manager and dietitian. And if you have any questions, of course, you can message us on social media. We're just at Movewell, MUUVWELL, on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, everything. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week.